morning, Simone Patterson here. Welcome back to my studio in Carterdell Cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. It's a bit cooler in here today. You can just see the outline of the mountain back there. But I've had the heater on, so we're all warmed up and we're ready to go. This is the second session. Our first session, we covered thinking on paper and designing for machine embroidery. We talked about colour, we talked about line, shape, and we worked on the computer to produce a little block that we're going to sew out on the machine today. So I've saved that design, I put it on a USB stick, and I've put it in the embroidery machine. So again, I'm going to be moving the camera around a bit, so it might be a bit shaky, so persevere, and hopefully the instructions will be very clear. Okay, so let's get to work. I'm going to move the camera and turn it to the workbench. Okay, here we go, and I'm just going to tip it down so you can see what's going on here. I just might have to shimmy it over a bit. Okay, so we are going to be sewing out our design on felt. I had used polycotton before on this example when I was testing things. There are some drawbacks to using polycotton, and you can see that this edge is fraying, but I do have a serger, and if I'm using polycotton, I will always cover that edge. So a really handy tool, I have here an embroidery block. It's a 12-inch block, and that's a really nice size for having a straight edge so that I can then stretch the work out onto canvas, and I'll just show an example there. So that's an 8-inch canvas, and I'll have 2 inches on each side to stretch the canvas. But tomorrow we're going to cover that finishing. Some quilters might be freaking out here, but what I got my husband to do, thank you David, is drill a hole in this block, and it's right there, so that I can use a dressmaker's pencil. I hope you can see that. It's just a little light pink pencil. And I just put that in that hole, and then I've marked my center, which is really handy because you want to have your work centered in the middle. So now I've got to put that on the block, on the hoop. But I have to use a stabilizer. I'm using a tearaway stabilizer here. There's lots of different stabilizers that you can use, and it depends on what fabric you're doing. When I'm embroidering on tulle, I want to do the wash away so it removes the stabilizer altogether. But here you can see I've used a stabilizer, but I haven't torn it away yet. Also in between, I used a little bit of wadding because I wanted to get a bit of volume. But I didn't like how it looked in the end because of, you know, we got a little bit of puckering on the edges there. So I didn't like that. So we're going to stitch out on felt. Felt is a very good material to use, especially when you're first starting. It stitches out very nicely on the machine. So yesterday we looked at the math of figuring out what size that should be, and we were working in centimeters because the hoops are designed for centimeters, and this little hoop here is going to go straight into the machine. I just wanted to point out that, and it's hard to see, a little triangle here on the edge of the inner hoop and on the edge of the outer hoop. It's different from hand embroidery where you stretch your piece over. Instead, you're going to be inserting this section inside the other rather than stretching the fabric over as you would do in hand embroidery. So let's get started here. Now, I think that hooping is an art form in itself, and there's lots of different ways you can do it depending on the stabilizer. You can get a sticky stabilizer so that you can put that stabilizer down and then just stick your fabric straight on top. But we're going to use the traditional method of hooping. So my stabilizer goes down first, and I want to try and keep everything really, really straight. And then I'm putting down my felt, and I'm going to use this little device here, put it up the right way, that goes inside my hoop. Oh, that's the little dog going outside. You can hear, sorry about that noise. What you doing, Opie? I can then line up my little dot that I made and start to push it down inside the hoop. It's a bit tricky, and I'm coming from it sideways, so hopefully I can just push that in there. We've got the first one. Okay. Oh. I have got the adjustment nice and loose. This is the little screw. You can see how far it's adjusted. But from here you can tell, I don't know whether you can see it, but my little dot is out of alignment. So I'm just going to shimmy that across. Oh. There we go. That's pretty close. Everything's reasonably straight. Oh, too far. As I said, it can be a little frustrating, but persevere. It'll come together. Right. And you mightn't be able to see, but I can see that my little pink dot is nice and close. Just a word about dressmaking markers. It comes off quite easily by using this part of the pencil, but don't iron it, because if you iron the dressmaker's marker, it will fix, and you don't want a pink spot. Now you can see I'm tightening up using a screw. We want that nice and firm so it doesn't slip out during embroidery. And that's one of the worst things that can happen. If you lose your hoop, if something slips out, then everything gets out of alignment and you may as well stop and start again. Now I'm just making sure that the surface that's going to be embroidered, that there is no puckering. Could probably tighten that a little bit more. And I want to turn over and, oh, you know, there's a little bit of puckering there on the stabilizer. This is an off-cut of stabilizer. I tend to really save everything. Never throw out your scraps of stabilizer because you can use it on something. Okay, that's pretty good. So I think that we are ready to get to the machine. So again, I'm going to move the camera, so bear with me. Let's move that chair out of the way because I want to show you as much of the machine as I can. There you go. And as I said, I copied the file that we're using onto this USB stick. The machine that I'm using is a Brother Dreammaker XE, and I wanted to give a shout out to Sue at Sewing Gallery in Princeton, West Virginia, who is the closest distributor of Brothers. She's been a great help. Really gave me a very nice price on this machine. So what I've done, I'm going to go through the threading of the machine, but first of all I want to get the bobbin fully wound on. So it moves pretty quick. There you go. That was just the end bit. And now I'm ready to thread the bobbin. So here we go. I'm going to cut that off. The machine has all the directions actually printed on it, so it's pretty easy to use. So I pop it in and follow the directions. Just wind it around. Of course, usually I'm sitting down in front of it, so it's a lot easier to do. There we go. Putting the cover back on. Now we're ready to actually thread the machine. From yesterday we used the red, and I'm just going to swing the camera around a little bit. You can see that I've got the thread on a stand. This will really help ease any thread dramas, because that's the worst thing that can happen. Well, it's not the worst thing that can happen, but it's something that goes wrong on a regular basis, especially if you're not using good quality thread. I use Fabiani's thread. It's beautiful, rarely breaks, it rarely tangles up, but the stand really helps. So I'm going to thread the machine. Again, the instructions are really very clear. And I apologize if I'm blocking the way, but it's a bit hard to see. Getting that, oh, up there. That was the automatic threader, but because it's kind of flipping, it's not a nice view. I'm sorry if you've got my back. I really want you to see that mechanism. There we go. I just didn't have it caught up there. I think I'm panicking a bit. But that needle threader is just the best thing. It really is. Okay, off my knees. I'm just going to roll my little feet around, and hopefully you can see what's going on. Oh, let me insert my hoop. Easy to insert the hoop. Again, you follow the directions and make sure this little switch is flipped down. Okay, so I'm going to set my embroidery. I can see I might do just a little tracing so I can see where it's going to embroider. So I can see the area that it's going to cover. Excellent. I'm going to close this. Then I also have a little marker on the screen. I'm not sure if you can see that there. A little red light. And I'm going to zoom up so you can have a look. Yeah, popping all over the place. And you can see that we're pretty close to what we actually have marked on our felt. Okay. Now, it should not take too long to stitch out because I simplified the stitches. So I'm going to put the foot down. I've got the green light ready to go, and let's see what happens. Now it's stitching out the fill stitch first, and okay, I'm just going to stop it here. It's wonderful in that it automatically cuts the thread, but sometimes what happens is that the thread is too short and it will unthread. You can see what happened there. I didn't have enough lead, so I'm lifting up my needle and I'm going to rethread this again. So these are some of the things that can go wrong. Sometimes it's a bit of Murphy's Law, especially as with any machine, any computer. If you're a little bit stressed out, the machine is going to know it and it's never going to work properly. So you try to approach it and be calm. Now I've lost a few stitches, so if I just swing the camera around a little bit, we should be able to see the controller. I know that there is a bit of reflection there, but I've got the opportunity of taking the stitches right back. I want to make sure that I don't lose any stitches. So now I can close that. I'll swing my camera back around so you can see machine stitching out, because I think that's by far the best. It's quite hypnotic actually when you start to see the stitches coming out. I'm just going to move that down a little bit and lock it. I'll put down the foot. I have a green light ready to go. Now, I'm just going to stop it because you can see that maybe you can't, but I do have a little bit of thread that's sticking up there. The machine will do automatically a couple of slow stitches to knot the thread, but you don't want those little bits sticking up, and I'm at a really weird angle to get that cut. Little pair of sharp embroidery scissors helps a lot. Okay, foot down and away we go again. Oh, well, didn't like that in that it wanted to do a couple of little stitches in preparation, and I'm just going to pull that thread out a little bit so we don't have that problem again. And to tell you the truth, that was the downfall of my design, so I can't blame the machine for that. And you can see it's stitching out that fill area now. That's a nice long thread. I think we're good to go there. Now, when I was looking at machines, I tried lots of different machines. And I remember at one demonstration I went to, they said, oh yes, you just press the button and you can go and make yourself a cup of tea. That's not really the case. You have to be watching the machine the whole time, making sure that it doesn't make any crazy errors. And I can see that there are some issues that I don't really like how it's outputting, and that's to do with the fill that I've used. I selected this particular fill because it was an echo of the design that we had done. So this will stitch out. It'll take some time and we won't be able to finish it, but I do want to mention some other things that can go wrong. You want to make sure that your machine isn't running too fast. You can adjust the speed. Oh, that's my timer. I'm just going to turn that off. Your machine can run too fast. You adjust the height of that, the needle for the thickness of the fabric, and you can adjust the tension. But really the biggest problems that you can have with machine embroidery is if the thread gets tangled. This isn't getting tangled at the moment, which is a relief. But it's going to take a little bit. It's about halfway through now, but I'm going to let it stitch out. And I'm sorry, we've run out of time. I'll just turn this off, but I want to let you know that if you have any questions, you can direct message me at Simpat Studio. Hopefully I've really inspired you to be creative today. I'll see you here tomorrow at the same time. It's our final session. And a big thank you to Olin Hall Galleries for supporting this workshop. Okay, bye for now.